O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Kawoosh podcast, and we are at episode 16, and we, that is me, Arne, and my co-host
Evie.
And we are talking about the episode titled Enigma.
You didn't say I was your wife. Did I miss an update?
No.
Was there a memo?
I thought I'd just stop mentioning it.
That's the beginning of the...
Yeah, this is a fun episode. We have a cool guest star, and we have the first appearance of a returning character, so let's get into it. We start off on a ruined planet, the actual one we see in the begin credits of the episode, where they speed up the camera movement going up to the gate. It has a lot of volcanoes in the background, and the gate opens.
It's a very dramatic shot. Is it the last one out of the opening credits that we haven't seen yet, or is there like one more?
I'm not sure.
There's like one shot with Hammond wearing a winter coat that I'm not sure we've seen yet.
That is from the episode where they find the Antarctica gate. That one is still coming up.
Okay.
And I think
So
there's
it's
more
still-
than one shot from that episode in there.
Okay, so we're almost to the end of the opening
believe
credits.
so, yeah.
Scenes.
So the team comes through and they say that this was not what the Melp saw when it went through. So Jack orders Daniel to start dialing, but he notices something. There's people lying around the gate on the ground, and some of them are still alive. Daniel even compares it logically to Pompeii. They also notice that they have these weird devices on their arm that they don't know what they are.
It is kind of like spacesuits almost. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And one of the people raises his head and he sees Carter in slow motion.
With the ash dancing around her and like a halo kind of light.
And he grabs her wrist and he tells her, "Don't help us."
And then we cut to
To
credits.
credits, yeah.
Which, the power of a compelling pre-credit hook. That's an art form.
Mm-hmm.
That really is...
I also wrote down at this point, because I remembered most of this episode, like not all the specifics, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what was going on, more or less. So I wrote down, most of the episode will play out on the base, so they put all their money in the opening scene, because that background is actually really good.
And they put it in the opening credits.
Yeah.
So, you know.
There's a lot of visual effects going on. You have the volcano in the background, the ashes in the foreground. There's so much stuff going on in that opening.
Do you notice when they get back to base, the ash is gone? There is no ash. Nowhere.
On them?
On them.
Oh,
None of it.
Well, it probably went away in the wormhole.
That's convenient.
So yeah, medics start carrying off the people in the gate room on Earth, and Hammond is awaiting them. He wants to know who these people are, but they don't know. And then later in the briefing, they talk about that they look human and that they rescued about 10 people. And there were no buildings around the gates, so they don't really know where they came from. And they did notice that the devices on their wrists are way ahead of Earth technology. And Daniel says that if it were not for the Dark Ages, we might have been on their level.
I love how they said, could they be ahead? Like, of course, they could be ahead. Like, what even... What
Yeah.
a weird question to ask.
Well, up to this point, they only... when they came across humans, they were always subservient to the Goa'uld, and they were always like... medieval kind of towns and stuff. Like, this is the first time they come across a human advanced society.
Yeah, but still, like...
But yeah, it's a bit
if
arrogant
saying, like,
too.
it's a bit arrogant, because even if you split off from... If you say everybody came from Earth, and you split off, those people will still have knowledge from where they came from. It's not like they had to reset and start from zero.
And
Except
that's
that, you know...
what Daniel says here. Like, they took them away and they didn't go through the Dark Ages, so they just kept evolving. And that's why they're ahead. So yeah. At this point, a soldier walks in and she says the leader of the people is awake.
That's the first time she has a line. That was an extra before, and she has like 3-4 lines in this episode.
Oh well, she got an upgrade. So they go to the medical bay, and we discover that the leader of the people is none other than Tobin Bell, better known as Jigsaw from the Saw movies.
Keep saying that, like
He's
I
very
didn't recognize
famous.
him. I know. It's my
His-
fault.
You didn't not even his voice, because he has a very distinct voice.
Yeah, the voice spoke to me.
She
Sorry.
did? Well, that's a good thing.
I am horrible with faces.
And voices, apparently.
No, I'm pretty good with voices. So the fact that I didn't, but he talks very, I don't know. He's
Yeah,
very.
that's his way of talking. Yeah, that's Tobin Bell.
He was very happy that it was in there. I think he wrote it down like 5 times.
Well, he's not very thankful to them for rescuing him, and he calls them primitive. Teal'c says that he's also an off-worlder and that on Earth life is valued. And the man says that is quite a statement from a Jaffa. So they do know about the Goa'uld, and they know enough to stay away from them.
That's kind of not how he says it. So we are aware of them. We don't engage. It's like it's very blasé.
Yeah, he's also called Omok, and he says that he tells them that he wants all their stuff returned, and he refuses to talk to them anymore. Yeah, he's like a petulant child. Like they're just literally turning away from them. Hammond tells Carter to keep an eye on the alien planet, and as soon as the planet is safe, he wants them gone. So Carter starts putting together a miniature UAV to scout the planet.
I love how it pans and it has this huge drone. And we're like, oh, look, back when drones were huge. And the first thing is, like, look, it's a miniature. I'm like, no, what? No, it's not. It's bigger than you are.
Well, it's a miniature airplane.
I know, but it's still, now we have, like, tiny little drones that you don't have to really aim to not hit the Stargate as you whoosh it through.
Back
I
then,
know,
it
I
did look cool because they launched it from a rail
It still looks
and stuff.
very cool. I just had to laugh at the miniature but it's the 90s. We're just old.
Daniel comes in and he tells her that one of the Tolan is awake and he wants to talk to her and only her. So they bring her to him, and he is called Narim. And Hammond suggests that Carter takes him up to the surface to show the planets. So they go outside of the base, which is, I think it's the first. Well, it's not big. It's like
Is it the first?
we see the stock footage from the outside a lot,
Yeah.
but this is the first time like they go. There's this bunker door, this iron bunker door. They come out of it. There's some trucks. It's clearly just a piece of forest, and they put some trucks in there to make it seem like the outside of the base. But so yeah, he's wearing this very shiny silver spacesuit.
It glitters in the sun.
Yeah.
It looks okay inside, but then they take him out in the sun and it's very glittery.
He tells her that he is very glad to be alive, and that he saw her before he thought he was going to die. And he compares her to the Shermal, creatures that appear before death and take you to their world. She smiles and says they're called angels on Earth, and some people believe in them. And at this point they also see an eagle, and he's surprised because on Tolan there were no animals left. He also asks her not to tell Omok about their conversation and wants to go back inside.
I wrote down, basically Nareem about Oma goes, he's not that bad, he just wants to protect us. And I'm like, that's abusive relationship talk right there. And later on we realize that there's more to it. But, you know, he just wants us to protect us speech is not the best. I also love how Nareem was like he saw her and he thought of her as an angel, true, but then he learned she was a scientist, and you can just see that was the point, that he was gone. He was like, and she's smart? And then it was just completely over for him. I also wrote down charming bastard. Because I'm usually not always into all these, like, a lot of the times, like, these small romance plots, they always feel forced, but I really liked how they played it here, because it's obvious that he's not just into her because she's a pretty face. And Carter plays it so charmingly awkward. She clearly has no idea what to do with it. She's
Well-
like, "Oh, I'm really bad at all of this, but okay, yay." It's just really cute. He doesn't turn-
Unfortunately, it does become a running thing for Carter to be paired up with the alien.
I didn't think about that. However, who else are you gonna pair off in the group? Daniel has a wife, Teal'c has a wife, and Jack has baggage. So
True.
for me, it's not as much as we're taking the only woman and doing it, but more like we wrote ourselves into a corner because everybody here is married. So who else are we gonna do it? And they did do it with Jack first.
Okay,
Because he accidentally married someone. off
because
planet.
he ate a cake.
I know, don't eat the food. That's the number one rule of the fairies. You don't eat the food. And
Yeah.
you're stuck there.
So they open up the gate and send the drone through. And on the other side, it is extremely hot and the lava is moving towards the gate, going to bury it in a couple of days. So they fill in Omok and he tells them that nature succeeded where they failed. Because they were going to bury the gate after evacuating the planet. And their new settlement is outside of the gate network and they would need a ship to get there. Which Earth doesn't have.
Like, we don't have those yet, is basically what Daniel says. And you can just see Omar going like,
Primitives.
primitives. Which I always love stories where they are not the ones with the superiority complex. Like they run into somebody with a more superiority complex than they have. And you can just see the confusion on sometimes Hammond's and Jack's face. Like, what's going on here? Are we not the...
And in the briefing room, Hammond mentions that the people will need to be relocated. And Jack says that they did some good out there, so maybe they can call in some favors. So they go to Omok to tell him, and they will get them back their devices since they're not weapons. At which point he says, like, but you did test them. But they will, at this point, have to stay at the base until they choose a place to go. Carter goes to Narim with a gift, and it is a cat. He's also a bit confused about how bedsheets work, because they don't have them on their planet. The cat's name is Schrödinger, so she tells him about the whole Schrödinger thing, where the name comes from, and he recognizes the theory, although it is called something else on Tolan.
I did get slightly annoyed at the Schrödinger cat, though, because Schrödinger was joking when he made that up. He said, like, you might as well put a cat in a box and say it's dead and alive at the same time. And everybody went like, that's brilliant. And he was like, no, I was making a joke about how absurd this is. And then everybody called it Schrödinger forever. You know, poor guy.
Yeah, but Carter is surprised that apparently on Tolan they solved quantum physics. And at this point, Omok walks in and Carter quickly leaves. And Narim tells him that he did not say anything to them.
And then off camera probably asks, how do these bed sheets work? Because...
Yeah, I still didn't
so
get the
confused.
explanation.
Yeah. It's like, how do these work? Yeah, I'm just gonna give you a cat. I'm not gonna explain it.
Afterwards, they are talking in the briefing room and Hammond comes in to tell them that the Tolan have escaped. So the team goes after them, finding them at night in the woods.
Was this before or after they were given a place at another planet? Did I just
Before.
not take... Before.
That's before.
Sorry. My notes are lacking.
Yeah, and Omok tells them they were merely observing the stars. Jack tells them they need to come back in, and Omok remarks, so we are prisoners after all.
Which,
And-
it's a good litmus test. If you're not free to get up in the middle of the night and make yourself a taco, then you're in a contained facility.
Like you mentioned, they invited some of the people we already know from other planets, and they are coming there. But before we meet them, they have a little aside about how they managed to escape unnoticed, but nobody seems to know. In the briefing room, Omok is sitting there with a very dark face, and we see some of the familiar faces, like the leads from the Broca Divide, who are happy to be invited to Earth.
And I cannot help but notice they put more clothes on. Because I remembered a lot of naked chests in that episode, and he was, like, maybe it was colder on Earth. Like, maybe
Could be,
Hammond said,
yeah.
dress up. it's not the bright planet
Yeah,
that
it's
it is.
inside, there's no sun.
Yeah.
And they say they would be honored to share their land with the Tolan, but Omok answers they have no idea who or what they are. They are missing the point. The planet is unacceptable. They are even more primitive than Earth.
I love that, like, the leader at one point says, "We know you are in need. That is enough." And I love that. That was very nice.
So afterward, Carter and Narim are talking, and she wants to know why Omok reacts the way he does. And he tells her about how they helped another planet near theirs, also more primitive, and they gave them technology, and they made weapons and destroyed themselves in one rotation of the Tolan world.
See, this is why Star Trek has certain rules.
Exactly. So she asks them what they were really doing outside, and he says that they were telling the truth. They were trying to calculate their position with the stars, and they came out to the fact that they are too far away to get to their new home.
It's too far to get in one lifetime.
Yeah.
Is, I think, what he said.
And then I think Sam says you'll have to stay for the cat, or does Narim
No,
say?
Sam says you can always stay, and I think Nareem said something about, well, luckily, I have someone here that I could stay for, and then he says, I'm talking about Schrodinger, which was very nice because I made the exact same joke 2 seconds before he did it. Validation.
Omok confronts them and says the escape was a test and Earth failed by coming after them with weapons. Carter offers that they can all stay and choose to do so. And Jack also wants to know how they got out, but they are not telling. In the control room, Harriman calls up the video feed from the escape, and we see the Tolan touching their wrist devices and then just walking through the walls. At this point, a familiar voice, well, for us because we know who he is, a voice says that this is exactly what they were waiting for, and it is Colonel Harry Mayborn.
Why do you say it like we're happy to see him?
We're not happy. Well, we're happy to hate him.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, he's a bastard of a character, and he will keep coming back.
And he will get more bastardly?
Yeah, and he gets a redemption arc at the end.
He does?
Yeah. I believe so, if I remember correctly. He's very interested in the alien technology, and he has an order to give the Tolan over to their section. Jax tells them these people have rights. Hammond even tries to buffer them, and he says the Tolan will have to go through quarantine first. Mayborn also says he has the full support of the president, but so has Hammond.
It's a presidential standoff.
Yeah, he sends Mayborn outside.
What color do you think Mayborn's phone is?
Probably also red.
They both have a red phone. Like, my phone is redder than yours.
It is a thing.
I know,
like
I know.
The red phone. Jack says Dr. Frasier already gave the Tolan a clean bill of health, but Hammond retorts that they may have a day before Mayborn finds that out. So Carter goes to talk to Narim to convince him to talk to Omok. He sees the same thing happening again. He says it's another Sarita, because that was the planet that destroyed itself. Mayborn makes it clear that they want superior weapons, and Hammond returns from a talk with the president. Mayborn apparently has the support to take the Tolan and take them to another facility nearby.
At which point Daniel makes a joke about the president. He says, "Not the president, I voted for him." Which begs the question, Daniel, did you vote before you left and disappeared for a year? Or has there been a vote since you got back? I don't know why I'm so invested in this presidential timeline coinciding with the Stargate program, but, like, when was this voting?
No idea. Hammond steps outside where the team is waiting, because that's where they can speak freely. So they're outside of the base again, and they want to help the Tolan. Daniel can't be court-martialed, so he can go against orders.
Which is a very handy,
brilliant.
It's a brilliant backdoor. And I love how he says, Daniel can be court-martialed. And he also goes, I love how he goes, Daniel can be court-martialed. And he has this look like said, and look at his face. General Hammond, you've let him get away with more than that. It's just, like, implied. Like, look at his face. He can commit war crimes. Nobody's gonna, We forgot something very important.
We did?
Back in the room, when the president, like, the whole thing was going on, and Mayborn said, I get to take these people, Daniel took off his glasses.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a DEFCON level at this point. DEFCON level, Daniel took off his glasses. It means it's bad.
Well, he goes to speak to the Tolan. Omok is angry about being questioned by Mayborn. So Daniel says that he maybe has an idea of where they can go, but he hopes they have the technology to contact them. Omok, of course, thinks this is a trick. So Daniel tells them about the Nox and how they felt about Earth the same as the Tolan, as in being very young.
Which is very smart of him, because he's like, Omok, there's other people like you out there. You can bond with them.
Yeah, and the Tolan may have a way to contact them because the Nox closed their gate. Daniel insists, though, that he'll have to come with. So Omok takes his hand and they walk through the wall together. Outside, Omok asks for the coordinates and he sets down a little device with a beam of light that is shot into space.
So he asks for the coordinates, which is presumably more than one thing, and then he presses one button. So how did he program it?
Well, it's also
Was it-
not a laser,
was
because Daniel is like, won't that take years to get there? And he goes like, no.
No, he says it's not a laser. And then he tries to explain it like,
Yeah.
these points are very far away, unless you do this. And then Daniel's like, oh, it's like folding space. And he goes, no. And it was very Doctor Who-like. Like,
Yeah.
yes, exactly like that. Only totally not like that. But yeah, sure, believe what you want to believe.
So Daniel hopes that at least the Nox will understand. Carter is working in the gate control room as she hears Narim, and he appears through the wall. He is there to say goodbye, and he will be going, but reluctantly.
Oh, it's young Wolf that cannot be.
Yeah, and he offers her one of the devices, and he says it records emotions, in this case his feelings for her, and he shows her how it works. Touch the red triangle and close your eyes.
So it's a giant mood ring?
Sort of. But I must
Also-
say, like, it's so goofy, and then you see the look on their faces, and they're like, okay, I buy it.
I know. It's such a funny thing because they play it really well. Because Carter has zero chill, and it's so endearing. And she's like, oh, yay, like all flustered and
Yeah.
stuff.
And it
That
says,
said,
yeah.
Nareem, you're giving technology to the like.
He knows. And he says they have a custom that says more than words, and he steps in to kiss her. And she says, we have that custom too.
You don't always have to say things, Carter. Just shut up and
And
kiss.
then Daniel comes running in.
Oh my God, he has.
Whoops!
He always does this.
Yeah, and he needs to do some stuff and needs Carter's help. And she says Narim should get going, but not to forget Schrödinger. And he thanks her. Mayborn, meanwhile, is briefing Hammond on what he needs when a soldier arrives to say the Tolan have disappeared. They walked right through the guards.
She says, like, poof, sir. Because he says, what do you mean gone? And she goes, like, poof, sir. And I love the delivery.
Yeah,
Like,
I told you to stay in the room with them. Well,
I
we
did.
were.
They walked right through me, sir. Her delivery is really good.
And then there is an off-world gate activation, and the iris doesn't want to close, so they open the shield because that was, for some reason, that was down.
Well, Daniel and
Probably,
Carter
yeah,
probably
probably.
did that.
And the Tolan are all in the gate room with Daniel. Mayborn is livid, and at that point, a Nox steps through
Not
the
true.
gate.
Not right away. First, Mayborn is like, Daniel Jackson, what do you think you're doing? And Daniel goes, what? Like he's so snarky.
Yeah, it is Leah, and she smiles at Daniel. Mayborn orders to use violence if necessary, so all the soldiers inside the gate room raise their weapons.
Hesitantly. It has to be
Yeah,
said. Hesitantly.
yeah.
They do not like that. They
And
have
Leah
to,
says that their race has learned nothing, but Daniel has, and that the Tolan are welcome. Mayborn yells to open fire if they take one more step, so Leah opens the gate just by gesturing her hands,
Magic.
and all the Tolan disappear, and also all the weapons of the soldiers, and then
Schrod-
she leaves.
And Schrödinger.
Yeah, of
Also
course.
Schrödinger.
And then Jack goes like, God, I love these people. Mayborn is not pleased at all and storms off, and the team gets together in the gate room, and Daniel thinks back to what the Nox told him. The very young don't always do as they're told, and they all smile about that as the credits begin to roll.
Yay! That was a good episode.
Yeah.
And I love, like, this is not the first time that they disobey orders in a sneaky way, in a roundabout way, to kind of undermine, because what they think the Stargate program is for and what the military think the Stargate program is for are very distinct, even though half of them are military. And I really like that. And I know that it's going to come up more, and there's going to be more clashes about that, specifically with Mayborn.
Yeah. And also we really start to get a feeling of Hammond. Like, he's the military guy, but he's also very reasonable.
Yeah, and he's definitely on their side.
Yeah.
He just has to follow rules.
Exactly. So he always tries to maneuver within those rules to get to the outcome that is the most humane. And that's his character. So
And you don't want him to just, resign or whatever and get replaced by somebody who is less willing to play either. So and he pulls rank at a certain point against Mayborn, which was awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing how he can go from very fatherly to just full on being the general with all this authority and just it's really cool to see him in action like that.
Yeah. Hammond appreciation.
Yeah, and Narim will be a returning character also.
You keep saying that. I do not remember most
I think
of
it's
them.
only one episode or something. It's not a lot. Like, they do some kind of follow-up episode where they go to the new world that the Tolan built.
No.
But I don't really remember what that was about.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. So this was a really fun episode. And it's, like you said, it's fun to have them meet a race that is, like, a lot more advanced. And they, like, okay, we had that with the Nox, but these are, like, really technological people, and they just don't want anything to do with them.
And the situation is completely different. They're refugees, so you have that going on. Like, how do you deal with that? They can't go home, so you try to relocate them and all of that. It was very interesting.
And it's also cool how they bring in Mayborn, and this will lead to all these storylines with Black Ops operations on Earth and how the government has more than one agenda. So that's cool. That's also fertile ground for more stories later on. So they're all seeding this in the very first season. So that's quite impressive, actually.
I have one important question. Does Schrödinger return?
I do not remember, but I'm pretty sure Carter will ask.
Like, hey, what happened to Schrödinger? Like, no, I'm pretty sure he comes back. Or maybe I'm just remembering. Orange cats were really in. For some reason, I remember a lot of 90s shows. If they had a cat, it was an orange cat. And now I kind of want to know if it was the same cat.
Could be. Acting cats were not that common.
I don't know.
You can't really train cats. Well, you can.
No,
but
no, you can't. You have, like...
not like you can train a dog.
I mean, you can train cats, but they generally don't really care.
Yeah. If they feel like it, they will.
Yeah.
They will do as you ask. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. We're coming up on the end. Like
You
5
keep
more
saying
episodes.
that. Like 5 more episodes?
Yeah. 21. So yeah, closing in on the ending of season 1.
So we're gonna probably get like at least one more filler. I think we need one more with the Jaffa. I have no idea what's going to happen. I know the final one is like a double.
Yeah, but it's only part 1 because we end on a cliffhanger.
Stargate is notorious for their cliffhangers. It gets worse.
It's a
once
very
you
American.
get-
It's a very American
Yeah,
thing.
but I remember once we get to Stargate Atlantis, you very much get into the doom and despair, and everybody's gonna die, and then McCain solves it in 5
But that
minutes.
does become
less.
a problem
Yeah.
because I remember the cliffhanger of Stargate Universe, the first season.
I don't even remember that one.
It's very, everybody rushes in, weapons are drawn, all our heroes are in the center of the room, guns pointed at them, and literally the opening moment of the next season, somebody comes in, starts yelling, "Put your weapons down," and it's all over.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it?
Probably they got new writers in or something, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we don't want to do this."
That second season is a lot more clunky than the first one. They
I
were
don't
really
even-
looking.
I don't even remember
Yeah.
the second season.
The ending is really strong, but they start off with basically repeating a lot of story beats from the first season. There's some characters that they clearly don't know what to do with, and then it just ends on a major cliffhanger that never gets resolved, which is a
Yeah,
shame.
for me, the biggest miss for me personally, what one of their main characters, like the scientist who thinks he's better than everybody else, he just did. I hated watching him. And you
He's
can't
too-
have
yeah.
scientists that feel they're better than everyone. I mean, look at Stargate Atlantis. That was an adorable dork that we all love to hate, and then we learned to love in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
But that character just really grated me wrong. I just wanted to punt him through the Stargates.
Yeah.
He was
And it's
not
a
doing it
really
for
good
me.
actor. Robert
Yeah, it was
Carlyle
not-
is
it was not,
amazing,
you know,
but
it's not his
maybe it
fault.
was too good. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's a horrible thing to say to an actor. Your job, you were doing it too good.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway,
yeah.
let's get to the next episode, and we'll see everyone next week.
I keep telling you, see us, we don't see them. Okay.
Bye.